make sure that, especially near the end or even during the presentation, go ahead and ask questions. The more interactivity we have, I think the better the meeting will be. But as a note, we are recording this just so we can share it with others, those who weren't able to join. As far as who's on the call, again, this is Jeremy Tesh. I'm responsible for the technical pre-sales for the US and Canada. And I've worked closely with Justin Nichols, who's also on the call from TMS, and he may chime in here and there to add additional details from the TMS perspective. We've worked together quite a bit over the last couple of months to deliver this release, and so on. Also on the call is Lori Lawrence, who you heard earlier. She's on our team, the EFI team as well. So with that, we will get started. So just a quick agenda. We're going to move through this pretty quickly. I have a few slides just to get through. We're basically going to present FireXF 7 for TMS, talk about the differences, what it looks like, and some of the benefits. One of the main benefits is a color improvement. We're going to talk about what's changing there and how that's going to benefit you. And then we'll jump into a live demo. So I'll show you what the interface looks like and take you through a quick tour, both from the perspective of UniDriver and the client. And then show you some resources if you want to know more. And then, of course, open it up to question and answers at the end. So that's what I have in mind for today. Again, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and we can ask them at the end. So just to put things in context, on the EFI side of things. So of course, we're a big partner with TMS. TMS has been using FireXF version 6 for some time. And actually that interface has been basically the same for 12 years or so. In 2018, EFI released a new product, new version of FireXF called FireXF version 7. So we jumped from 6 to 7 in May of 2018. And with that, we adopted a new interface, the Fiery Command Workstation interface. So that's the main client that a customer would use to gain the full feature set of FireXF. Now, most of you are using a scaled down version of that, which is called Fiery UniDriver. That has also changed and been updated. And then we're now releasing a version unique for TMS of version Fiery 7.1. And that was a soft release in September, and it's now being released to the field. So basically, one of the main changes, again, was the interface change. We adopted the Fiery Command Workstation client. So the native client that we had always used with XF has been retired. And we have adopted this client interface. You'll see it looks a little bit different when we go into the live demo. The reason we did this was because Fiery Command Workstation is very prevalent out in the printing industry. It's often, historically, it's been attached to a toner-based or a cut sheet workflow. So the Oki device that TMS is using and other toner-based devices would often have a Fiery controller in front of them and use the Command Workstation client to control that print engine. There's a huge amount of development and prevalence of this in the industry, so we adopted this for the wide format space as well. Some of you may benefit from this because there may be a smaller audience of TMS customers that have not just inkjet, but have toner-based devices beyond the Oki that can be rolled into the same console. So this allows us to share all devices, all technologies under one interface. More specific to TMS is the updated UniDriver. So this has also been simplified and cleaned up, and you can see a screenshot of it over on the right. So this is typically how you would submit files to Fiery. It has the same features as we have had before, but they're in a simplified interface. So the workflow and media are now hidden behind buttons. Those are things you less commonly would use. So overall, this has been, I think, improved significantly. The other thing that you'll notice, first of all, here is that the color management is all in the correct place now underneath the media. So basically, as you work through the unit driver, you're selecting the printer. The workflow, there's a single workflow for each printer, essentially, setting the front end color management. And then there's color management per media now. So instead of presets, we would be selecting the color management per media. And I'll run through that during the live demo. Here's what may or may not apply to you, but some of you have mixed technology, some toner devices. You can now unify those with your inkjet devices under one console. So some highlights for the release specific for TMS. With this release, and one of the main motivations for this, is the support of the HP Z9. So this is a brand new printer that TMS is bringing. It has the largest color gamut of any of the devices in the TMS portfolio. It also supports a V-trim cut. So as the device is printing, it can also do a trim, not just a cross cut, but a vertical trim along the edges of images. So a couple benefits there. Of course, this is a newer printer, so it requires a new release and only supported in the 7.1 TMS release. So that's one of the main motivations. So with the Z9 and the development we've done over the last couple months, in order to calibrate and profile that device, we've worked with TMS and centered around this approach of media-centered color management. So we're basically taking each substrate or each media and calibrating it, putting in the printer in its optimum state for that substrate, and giving it the best possibility to produce the largest gamut, and making sure it's very stable. And then we're color managing to that. So each substrate will essentially produce the largest gamut available on that substrate. And with that, you get a lot of improvements in color. So one of the major improvements would be the ability to print more of the Anheuser-Busch portfolio of colors. They're more aligned with the Anheuser-Busch packaging, and they are more similar media to media. So huge benefit in color with this release. In fact, things went so well in the Z9 in this approach, we also have adopted that approach for the other legacy printers in the portfolio. So we're basically giving you the best possible condition there in terms of color and much more consistency overall. With that, we're also printing to industry standards. So some of you are more involved in printing may have heard of Grackle. All the color is targeted to that industry standard. And overall, now we have a much better match and consistency. Also, what the 7.1 release brings is new rip cores. So we have the Adobe PDF print engine, the legacy PostScript engine, and now we have the fast rip. The default rip core for the 7.1 release is the fast rip, which is basically an EFI implementation of the PDF print engine, which maintains file integrity of complex PDF files, but also speeds things up beyond what the PDF print engine can do. It's co-developed with EFI and Adobe, and we can get about 5 times speed increase on average in terms of rip speed. So, operating system support obviously has changed. What I have listed here are the latest versions for Mac and Windows. Basically, what we've done in version 7 is standardized on a Windows server only. We support up to Windows 10. And on the client side of things, if you decide to install the Command Workstation client, that can go up to Windows 10 as well, or Mac OS up to 10.14 at the moment. Okay, so just a quick preview in some of the interface changes. We have the unit driver. So on the left is a screenshot of the current unit driver. and it's basically tab-based, and the new unit driver is on the right. So I think things have been simplified significantly, and you'll find this much easier to use, much faster, and so on. And we'll cover that in a live demo. For those of you that have been venturous and have gone into the FireXF client, so again, we have two routes into FireXF. One would be the unit driver, which is most commonly used. The other would be the Fiery client. This is the interface that has been consistent for 10 to 12 years. This is what has changed with Command Workstation. So for those of you that wanted to do a little bit more with Fiery, you may be familiar with the Fiery client. And this is basically the structure of how it was built. It was built on users, workflows, and output devices. The output device represents the printer, the workflow is the job settings, and the user gives access to those things. So if you wanted to support one printer with 4 different medias and 4 different ways of printing, 4 different workflow presets, this is what we would build in the old version of Fiery. So this is sort of daunting and looks complex. We've cleaned that up quite a bit and kind of imagined how this could be built. So if you have one printer, in this case we have a ViewTech, but this could be an HP. We've now taken that same criteria for workflows, one printer and 4 media, and it's now just built differently. It's a much simpler way of thinking about that structure. And I'll show you how you would implement or actually use that. As far as the interface, if you were to launch the FireXF client and do some job editing or bring jobs together and do some advanced layout, this is the tool you would have used for the existing release. And we had a balance between the job management being the red portion of this image and the job editing. So job management is all about getting the right job into the system and printed at the right time. So basically a job list and managing jobs. And then the job editing would be a visual layout type tool and setting all the options for the job. In the existing install, there was always a balance between those two in one interface. And as you'll see in the demo, we've now split those into separate windows. I think it offers a lot more focused use of the tool. So when I want to manage jobs, and that's all I want to do, I have a window for that. And those times when I really want to concentrate on the layout and get it correct, I have a full screen job editing window for that called the job editor. As far as the existing version and what it's called in the new version, this is a slide just for your reference. So FireXF Control was the icon in the system tray down by the clock that represented the server piece. That's now called Fiery Server Control and is now on the taskbar, and I'll show you that. And then the client is no longer called just the client, it's called Fiery Command Workstation. And this is the tool that bridges all technologies, including toner and so on. The unit driver is still called the unit driver, it's just updated. The Job Explorer, that's the item you saw in the previous slide, that's now called the Job Editor. And the System Manager is where everything is built. That's now contained within the Fiery Server Manager, which we haven't seen yet. I'll show you that. One of the main benefits here of if you do use the client is the ability to see multiple servers. So I don't know if anyone has multiple servers. I don't believe that's the case, but we can now monitor multiple servers. Or probably more useful for you is you can install Fiery Command Workstation anywhere in your network. So, and you can use it for a monitoring tool just to see the progress of activity on those printers, or you can interact with it and submit jobs. So with that, I'm going to just jump into a live demo and kind of show you what this looks like. So I'm starting from Adobe Illustrator. I know we've got a different starting point, but from the unit driver, it's basically the same. So here's what the unit driver looks like now. And just as before, we select the printers, So getting a job out is as simple as selecting the Z9. There is no workflow to select. There's just one workflow per printer. And then we have the media selection. So as opposed to selecting color management presets, or in some printers you would select the media, it's all now standardized in this one dropdown. So when you have a different substrate on the printer, you simply go to the media and select that substrate. And what is happening behind the scenes is, so if I select PMWR, we have a calibration and a profile. So the calibration is doing that part of putting the printer in its optimum state, and then the profile is making sure that color is accurate. So if I select PMWR, I'm getting a calibration profile unique to that. If I select another media, Waltac, I'm going to get a calibration profile unique for that. The end result is that when you print onto those two substrates and you hold them up together, you're going to see a significantly increase in color gamut, better match to the brand colors of Anheuser-Busch, and those two substrates will be much, much closer together. So all of that's going on when you select the media type here. So if I select this, all I need to do is click OK, and the job is going to go to the printer, the server, and eventually to the printer, and that's all going to happen automatically just as before. I can, if I had Command Workstation installed, which is this here, I can go into that. Let's see here, and I can see the job land in the queue. So again, this is where you can install Command Workstation if you didn't want to do anything but simply manage or monitor the progress of jobs in the facility. So what you see here, just to give you a tour of Command Workstation, if I go to the home screen, what we have is, like I said, we can join multiple servers to a single instance of Command Workstation. Most of the time you would have just the one. So here we have Fiery XF7 server is the server connected to all my HP printers. If we had other servers in the facility, both Cutsheet and Inkjet, we can join them as well, and that's why you see multiple servers here on the left. On the right are just some basic metrics about what's going on in that server, so production metrics, how many jobs have gone through and so on the right, I should say. If we go down to Job Center, this is where we can actually see the jobs. Those servers that I have joined to this Command Workstation are listed on the left. So this one called Fire XF7 is highlighted in light blue. That's the actual server. And inside here, if I expand this, I can see all of my supported HP printers under this one server. So this is where we can see everything, what's going on. So if I submit via Unidriver, it's going to land in this queue, and it's actually going to go directly from a spooled state to a printed state. But if I want to import directly into Command Workstation, this is something you might want to do if you want to do more advanced layouts. So for example, this land chart graphic and the shelf strip together, I could bring those in together into Command Workstation, and it's going to bring into the import files dialog. So the other benefit here is I think the connection between Fire Command Workstation client for more advanced use and the Unidriver. So if you look, it's very similar. So the Unidriver allows you to select a printer, and if you click this Apply Server Workflow, the workflow and the substrate. So from this perspective, the import from Command Workstation and the Unidriver is very similar, and I think you would be able to make the connection pretty quickly here. If I just apply the defaults, I can go direct to print, or most of the time with Command Workstation, you would go to hold because you typically want to interact with this job with Command Workstation rather than just go direct to a print. So if just to show you what's going on in here, if I go to those two jobs have now landed in the job list, and I can click on them and see a thumbnail preview in the upper right for both of these and some information about that job beneath. Now, if I want to change something about this job, I can double click it, and it will open in the second part of Fiery Command Workstation, which is called the job editor. So this is the full screen preview that you now have available to you. And things in here, so everything that happened to this job, I'm sorry, let's go back there, is based on that Z9 workflow. So for example, one thing that's happening is the job's being centered. Maybe I want to left justify the job or do a rotation. And for this one, maybe I want to add some crop marks. So we can go to the finishing tab on the left and add those crop marks. So that's just an example of things you can do with the Command Workstation. If you'll notice, all the properties for the job that you have available to change in the old client were on the right. They've moved to the left simply just so we have to mouse all the way across the screen. But everything you've seen, everything you could do before, it's still here. It may look a little bit different. It may be arranged in a different way. But what we've tried to do is really clean this up and make it easier to use. So everything is available here. So now I've got this job. Just an example, I made some changes. It took me a few clicks to build this. I can now save this as a workflow. And we can save that, and it becomes available for us to use in the future. So if I'm happy with this job, I can actually print it directly from Job Editor. So if I click this, it's going to go on and print. We can see that progress here back in the job list. The other thing I could do is just simply save this job and then come back to Command Workstation and manage it later. So, and then print it from here at any time. So complete flexibility on how you want to manage jobs. So remember, we save this as a workflow. What we could actually do is, from either the UniDriver perspective or Command Workstation, we can utilize that workflow. So if I'm going to use the UniDriver, and I want to print to the Z9 now with that new workflow, that workflow is now available here. That's going to accomplish that new task. So if you're going to do something repeatedly over and over again, this is something you could establish as a new workflow that does that for you. So if I click that, the job would come in with those new settings. Let me show you that from Command Workstation perspective. So import, let's grab. Let's see something smaller here. And open this up to apply the server workflow. There's my new workflow, bringing it into a hold, or we can go direct to print. I'm going to go to hold so I can show you what that looked like. If we double click, now remember the job editor I never closed, we can go back to the job list, double click, and it updates the job editor with that new setting. And this is a much larger file, so, but you get the idea. So with this, you can, if you want to do something out of the ordinary and you're going to do it over and over again, you can build a workflow around that and use that either in Job Editor, I'm sorry, in Command Workstation or UniDriver. One last piece of Fiery Command Workstation would be the Server Manager. If you right-click the server itself, this opens up the Server Manager where all the global settings reside. These are the global settings. Oops, clicked away there. These are the global settings for the RIP. Under the Printer tab on the left, we have all our printer definitions, and this is where all the color management settings and so on reside. So we have the media, and in here, we have the calibration and profile. They're doing that media-specific color management to make everything match. In the workflow category, we just have the front-end color management set up and all the job layout and so on standardized across all printer types. if you want to iterate off from that, here's the right justification with crops workflow. You notice the same tabs and panels are available here, so you can make changes and so on. You can even make copies of workflows, so make a duplicate and maybe just change 1 or 2 settings and iterate off that workflow for other purposes. So that's a quick tour of what Command Workstation looks like now, how you reference the printers, or actually how FireAccept looks via Command Workstation or the Unidriver. I guess I can take a moment here for questions. Justin, is there anything you want me to cover that that you haven't seen?
No, I mean, I think this has been a great kind of overview on everything. I mean, the key kind of takeaways are we spent a lot of time invested in really improving the color overall, as Jeremy mentioned, kind of across medias and across devices. So we've kind of got away from this kind of super saturated on some medias and lighter on others, and we've normalized all that. Where it's a much more true representation of, you know, not only what you're seeing on your screen, but the colors that it should be as it's outputting, while still saving ink. So we've got, you know, improvements there where it's just, you know, you're going to get better color out of your 62, out of your 68, out of your Z9. You're going to get while still saving ink, and that's the key there. You've got productivity improvements within XF exceptionally well, you know, in the Unidriver and how most people are submitting jobs to it. We've got productivity improvements with the printers themselves, especially the Z9 with the trimmer and the dual rolls and all that. But the best thing I can think of is seeing it for yourself. So what we do is got some samples for you guys. If you'd like them, we can get those sent out to everybody on the list. But it's basically the same print out of version 6 and out of version 7, and you don't really know what you're missing out of 6 until you see the stuff out of 7. So we've already sent those off to a few people that I think can attest to that. But it's been a big road to kind of plow, but it's been well worth it. We're really excited for you guys to see the output out of XF7 because we're really excited about it. So Jeremy, I see a couple questions in the chat. Will the job queue feature a thumbnail image of the projects? And it does, as you can see over there on the right-hand side of Jeremy's screen right now. There's the preview, and then even on nestings, I think he's got one in there. You may have to just click the little button that says create preview, but he can run through that.
Yeah, let me just show you a kind of a killer feature here, or something where you can utilize nesting. So here's a bunch of files that I have available to me. So if I select all of them and open them, let's just bring them into a hold state into the queue. So they're all going to come in and quickly get a preview. And I'm just going to let them finish spooling. There we are. So we can select all of these. And we can do this as we import, or I'm just doing a more hands-on way of showing you this, but we can do what's called a nest. So a nest is essentially taking multiple jobs or multiple files and bringing them together into one job. So they're all independent files still. As I expand the nest, you can see them nested in there, basically ganging up jobs together. Most of the time, your files are of a size that the finished size, and they fit the printer width, and a nesting might not be applicable. I'm going to double click this job just to open it in Job Editor. And one of the things you could do, if you just want to get a sampling of what's going on, there's so many things you can do in here, but one thing you might want to take a look at is this uniform scaling. So with that, I can make the width or height, whichever is longest, to a certain size. In this case, it's going to be 6 inches. And then I can just simply click apply. And what that will do is scale these down to a size where maybe you can get a proof of what this is going to look like. So it's now resizing these on the fly, and then it's going to orientate them onto, in this case, a 36-inch roll. And we could print this and get an idea of what these are going to look like before we go into full-on production on that substrate. So maybe you do this to decide, yeah, this is going to work on PMWR, or I want to do it on something else. So, and you could build a workflow to do this, but this is just an example of the nesting that Justin was speaking about. Whenever we group files together or do something special to them, you can get the preview directly in Command Workspace or the job editor, or you can click up here and have it create a mini preview. So hopefully that answers that question.
And then the next one's adjusting copies within Job Explorer there, or within Command Workstation.
Yeah, so if I take this single file here, I'm going to open that in Job Editor. The typical way to do copies here, let's just use it just a smaller size. So to do multiple copies, we would also go to the layout. Instead of nesting, we can do a step and repeat. And then we can specify, let's say I want 10 copies of this, and click apply. And it's going to lay that out according to what it can fit on the media. In this case, I have some crops set in here. Maybe I want to take those off. We can do that and then readjust the layout to accommodate that. And everything can be changed here. So the space between, the ability to add marks. So if we go back to layout, here's where you can change some of those things. We have 5 millimeter between them currently. Maybe we fill that last row. And there we go. You know, there's even advanced options where you can just do a partial fill just to fill out the media. And then we can center and so on. That's the typical way of doing multiple copies.
And we can, but we can also, if he just has one job in Command Workstation, we can adjust the number of copies on the right in that edit, where we just click the little pencil there or whatever it is.
Yep. Here.
So we just want a real basic change the number of copies. If something's going to fill the whole screen, fill the whole media, then you can just change the number of copies there and it'll print. But Jeremy brings up a good point in doing the step and repeat or the nesting, because then the printer will treat it just as a singular job and it won't stop in between the individual copies. You know, unless you want it to trim between copies, that's the great thing about XF and the printers is it's very formable to what you're looking for. So if you want to cut between each copies and you don't use the take up, great, no problem. We can set that up and just have it cut between copies. If you want it to run to the take up, we can have it not cut and print it faster. If you want to cut after it's done doing the long run, where it's not cutting in between the copies, but doing it at the end, we can do that. So there's a lot of flexibility there, so we can handle all that. But that's just a quick way to change those copies. And then to Kathy's question about the where sometimes Corel will kind of bonk, for lack of a more technical term, and not be able to process the job out to Command Workstation. I've seen that improved both with the latest version of Corel and XF7, and then my preferred way of managing that, if that does happen, is publishing it out to a PDF and then bringing it in, doing the import that Jeremy showed. That works tremendously well in XF7, and it rips the job super fast through that fast rip process. So I've had really good success with everything we've tested here. But the best thing is, getting your feedback too once you start using it. And EFI is a fantastic partner in making adjustments to fit what you guys need. So we've got some new tools to address that, and also keep everyone up to date. As if fixes or new improvements are applied, then we can do all that too. But bringing in PDFs and getting them ripped and printed has been vastly improved as well. And then Jason's question about sending the jobs through Unidriver, set the roll size. You can still do that, from the application if you just hit that customize media button there. Just like the old Unidriver, it'll remember what you set it as. We can also set up individual medias, for a certain size, but it'll remember anytime you change that information right there. So you'll see all those different sizes. Same thing with the workflows. Jeremy showed one that could apply crop marks and resize it or justify it. Same thing we can do for grommets or for on the Z9, since it can trim full bleed if you want to workflow or trim full bleed and not. That's where it's all very, very flexible into what you're looking for. So that can all be addressed and sized, but that's where you would change the roll size. But just like the old one, it'll remember if you pick a 36, it'll stick on 36 to change it. So all those old tab options are still there. We just tried to simplify the process, and we're not having to bounce around too much to get the jobs out. So we like this simplified interface to get jobs into the RIP and get them printing. And then the same thing kind of applies to the Oki as well, where we've set a media type. You'll see case cards, and it'll be applied to an 11 by 17 sheet, and then we can set a media up that says case cards 12 by 18 if that's what you're doing. So again, we're trying to simplify things where you're not having to make a lot of clicks to get the jobs out. So it's all about streamlining as much as humanly possible. And then see a question from Jay about changes to the media profiles on the actual printer. You won't have to make a change there. If for anyone that already has a Z62 and Z68 with the when you load the roll and you have the custom options and it lists all those media names that you're seeing in that drop down in the Unidriver there, those won't have to be changed at all. If you get a new Z6810, you'll get a new flash drive with that, and that will load all those profiles on there, as well as update the printer to accept the 771 ink that you're using in your Z62 and Z68s now, because the Z6810 in the normal kind of standard channel uses a different ink, so that's what that USB will work for on the Z6810. On the Z9, same type of thing. You'll need to load profiles on that, but that'll put the same custom options that you're seeing in that media list to make everything line up and print the proper way. So that's the ticket there. And then Heather, is there a way to view thumbnails without having a specific job selected? It'll show you the preview even if you don't have a file name or whatever. But you mean like a preview kind of to the side, like
in the job,
like XF6 showed? I don't believe that's an option. It's all previewed over on the right there. Again, right. They're trying to simplify the interface that way, but it does a really good job of capturing a lot of different information, and you can customize what you see in that interface as well.
Well, we do have the thumbnail view that may help there. So
there you go. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden over there, and it's easy to forget about. So here's a way that has that same list, except now in thumbnail. So I think that will get you what you need as far as that. I think I know what she may be, or they may be referring to is the preview that was in line of the job list.
Yep.
That option. Great. Good questions. I think that covered all the chat questions, right?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. All right, so just to wrap things up, that covers the demo. I just have a couple last minute closing thoughts, and then if there's any remaining questions. So just to review, we've got the new we've got the new interface. I think it's significantly easier to use, streamlined and faster. This release will support the Z9, of course, and I think there was a question, the legacy printers are all there as well. They're all going to take advantage of that new color, and I really encourage you to take Justin up on seeing the samples. I think they're amazing, the color that's coming out on that media. As far as Fire Command Workstation, it's a free download, a free install. So if you do want to take Fiery and do more with it. That would be the thing to look for is Fiery Command Workstation. Just some things you can do with it. You know, the job monitoring I mentioned, doing anything advanced layout, you can use the Command Workstation for. And then for those of you that have some toner-based devices that are already using Command Workstation, you of course unify now your HPs with those as well. So a lot of opportunity available there. Of course, just the last slide here to kind of give you some resources. I know I kind of threw a demo at you with some things you can do. You're like, well, how do I know how to do that? Of course, TMS support is there. That's your first resource. But also in Fiery, there's context-based help that calls on our learning videos directly. And let me just show you that real quick. So if we go to Command Workstation, maybe I'm in Job Editor. I want to remember how to do this step and repeat or nest. So we can go to the Help menu, and it's a web-based help. And we can type in nesting. So nest selected jobs. So there's a textual explanation on how to do that nest. And then I think most important is if you're interested about a certain topic or a certain task, you can click throughout. We have these videos available. And these are actually calling on our learning site. So the version 7 release is supported with hundreds of videos organized by category to cover and train anyone from very basic, just how do you manage and get some jobs through Command Workstation, to full on color and everything. And that's all available complimentary from our learning site. So this video from the help is actually calling this pertinent video out of that learning system direct from the help menu. And that's probably how I recommend accessing those videos. But for those of you that may want to go direct to them, learning.efi.com. You can register there and take those courses there if you want to know more. So,
and then as people roll out, you know, and get more users of XF7, we'll be doing some more webinars like this where Jeremy will go through the more specifics. I know this was more of an overview, get people kind of on board with XF7 and seeing the changes, and then we'll do more specific training. Here's how you do a nesting, here's how you do a tiling, so on and so forth. So those will be coming in the coming months here too. So you'll have us, you'll have EFI, and you'll have us together. So we'll want to make sure everyone's comfortable and you know, quick to adjust to the new interface and the new kind of process, even though it is much more simplified.
I think there's a couple more questions on the chat.
Yeah,
I think mostly about availability. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it's available now. It won't prompt you to upgrade from XF6 or anything like that. It's your option. Really, unless you get a Z9, there's no requirement to move to XF7. But we strongly recommend it due to that investment in the color output. I think that is well worth its weight in the upgrade cost to move up to XF7. But just to be clear, we're not. There's no forced upgrade or anything like that. That's not how, you know, either EFI or TMS like to operate. We're like, you have to buy this. You only require it if you get into Z9, because the Z9 won't be supported in XF6. But the new color is only supported in XF7, so we can't get you the new color on XF6. So you can upgrade at any time. You just gotta talk to whoever your customer service rep is, or you can order online. What's great to kind of rolls into the next question about which product, if you need the full version or the upgrade. Most people are going to need just the upgrade. So if you had a copy if you're already running XF, which 99% of people are, you're already eligible for. You can just get the upgrade, which I think is around $1,100 to upgrade. And the full version would be if you never had XF, or if you're adding an additional server, which again isn't required. It's just some people run multiple servers. Then I think that's like $1,200 or $1,300. So the delta in price is pretty limited. but the key is most people are going to need the upgrade. And even if EFI's done everyone a solid too, because even if you've never upgraded to 6 for some reason, because some people didn't, you can even upgrade from the 4.5. So it'll most people, that's why I say 99% of people will be, you can just get the upgrade. Let's see. Have an install setup guide or video for installing. We don't have that, but EFI does have that in that EFI that learning.efi.com. There's videos on installing it and setting it up, and then of course we're a resource for you there too, and we're happy to. That's where my team comes in, and we'll be happy to. We're happy to walk you through and get everything set up. All we really need is make sure you got the download going, or at least downloaded. Will speed things up. And then if you know the IP addresses of your printers, we should be able to get you set up and rolling pretty quickly. So if you want to do it yourself, there's at learningefi.com where John Nate does an awesome job of walking you through installing and activating the license and all that. But if you'd rather someone from my team do it, that's totally cool. It's why we're here. It's why we're paid. So feel free to give us a call there, and we're happy to go that route too. And thanks for Kathy. We sent some sample prints to Kathy, so thanks for verifying that those were helpful to see those color improvements to what you're seeing before you. I think we were blown away by it, so we hope you're the same way. So, and the limit of the number of workflows per printer, I don't think I think there's a number, but it's some ridiculous number, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, there really is no limit to workflows. As you get to some high level, it's hard to navigate. I mean, that's really your limit there. So
yeah, but on the Oki, so we've done that. I think, yeah, that was a real mess, as far as your system manager in XF6 and getting all those Okis set up. So most of those will come preloaded already, like I was saying, where you'll see a media that says case cards 11 by 17. You'll see a case cards 12 by 18. You'll see shelf strips this and so on. So we've tried to kind of preset a lot of those that we saw a lot of people using just out of the box. And then of course you can customize them, or we can help you customize them, all that good stuff. So it's kind of up to you from there. Let's see, in XF, if I made adjustments, I would have to select another project to prompt the, it'll automatically, yeah, if it notices you've made a change and haven't saved it, it'll prompt you. And then of course, you can always hit the little save button or the file save. EFI is really good about putting prompts or putting options in a lot of different places, so it matches kind of whatever your process is. But it'll be a similar interface there.
Yeah, the keyboard command S or Control S is, I like to use that as well. So that's the next fast one.
So that'll work too. Yeah, and then existing workflows, they'll follow. So what was really great about what EFI did for AB in particular is that XF7 would only, but their default package, their normal package only allows restoring backups from 6.5, which you guys were only on 6.0.1 because you didn't need anything past that. So they've actually made it so you can restore a backup from 6 to 7. But in all honesty, I would probably reset them back up just because in that new interface, it's a really clean operation, and that way we can make sure we get everything in there properly. So you can restore the backup, but and you can do that and then take a look at it and say, oh no, I think I'd rather start fresh, and we can roll it back or however you want to do it. But we'll help you however works best for any and everyone type of thing. But that does bring a good point. Before you do move to XF7, I would take a backup of your XF6 system manager. So that's just as simple as going into that system manager tab up at the top and then going to file and backup and saving it, because it doesn't hurt to have it. And then the same thing once you, because 6 and 7 can't be on the same computer, right? So you'd have to uninstall 6 if you're going to run it on the same computer, and then install 7. And then we highly recommend, once you've got everything set up in XF7, take a backup, which you can do in that server manager that Jeremy had. and then save that somewhere, preferably on a flash drive or a Dropbox or any type of cloud account, because that'll help us and you tremendously if problems arise down the line. We have a kind of a known good state we can roll back to that applies just to you versus our more generic default backup. So that's a big tip for anybody. Even if you're going to stay on XF6, take backups. Anytime you make changes, take a backup and save it someplace safe where you can get it in the event of some type of problem. And then the question on let's see, we'll work on Windows 7. I think technically it's supported, but
yes, that's correct.
Yeah, you're going to want a new. If you're still running Windows 7, you're probably going to want a new computer at this point. I mean, the computers at Windows 7's computer is 6 years old, so it'll run it, but will it run it well is a different question. So that's a personal question, I guess. But we'll try and figure out. If you're still running a Windows 7 system, let us know, and we'll see how we can get you upgraded into a new system. To make sure you've got a good experience on a new interface here. Curious question: what does XF stand for? I have no idea, to be honest. Jeremy, Lori.
It's extended features. It was extended features back in the day.
and more and more, it's just Fiery. So.
Yeah, right. More and more, we just call it Fiery. But there is a question about Windows 7, and technically, Windows 7 is not supported. You need to be on Windows 10, especially when you've got multiple printers and stuff like that. It's necessary for you to move to Windows 10. Not just that, Windows 7 is no longer being supported as of February 2020.
Yeah.
So you want to move forward.
Yeah, we'll figure out. Let us know. We can help you there. We've got some really great computers coming out that'll have. And what's nice about those systems is they come with XF already installed for you, so it makes the setup process really easy. You just activate your license and away you go. And that's another nice feature that we didn't mention on this call is XF7 gets away from the little USB dongle, so it's all license-based now. So you won't have to worry about losing that dongle or breaking it or anything like that. That thing's going to go away. So.
Great.
Any other questions that we can help answer? Of course, like Jeremy said, you can always reach out to us here at TMS, and we'll answer anything we can for you and help you along the way. But if you need anything else in the meantime, let us know. But we appreciate everyone's time today, and we'll go from there.
Thanks.
Yeah, no,
go ahead.
One last question. Yeah, you won't need the dongle after you update to XF7. So you'll be dongleless.
Super nice to get rid of that.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, we'll end the call. Thanks everyone for taking time out to preview XF7. We're super excited to release this for AB with TMS. The color's amazing, and I think the interface will speed things up for you too. From there, everyone have a good rest of your day. Thanks a lot.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.